Hello. Today, we are on review lesson number 113, which is the reviews for lesson 95 and 96. I am oneself, united with my Creator, serenity and peace, perfect peace, are mine, because I am oneself, completely whole and at one with all creation. Salvation comes from my oneself, whose knowledge still remains within my mind. I see God's perfect plan for my salvation perfectly fulfilled. For any of you who have found that oneself and have become familiar with it, the light of that oneself is what enables you to see God's perfect plan for my salvation perfectly fulfilled, because in that instant you recognize the perfection, reality of that self, and the inability for that self to be affected by anything unreal whatsoever, including this dream of separation, this illusion that necessitates something such as a mind training. Come to recognize who we are as that oneself. And I don't really know if there's a whole lot to say about this lesson when it says, from my oneself, whose knowledge still remains within my mind. There's an indication of two things in that statement. Number one is that the knowledge and the self, the knowledge of that self, has remained within my mind, hidden by the illusion of a self other than that has taken on characteristics that are the exact opposite in every way to that oneself. And there's also an indication that within that oneself, all the knowledge of the universe is contained. The knowledge of our creation, the knowledge of our reality, the knowledge. And remember, the realm of knowledge is not necessarily the goal of this course, because peace is. But when the peace that passeth, the understanding of the ego dawns on you, then the knowledge of the kingdom becomes available to you, because that's the condition for the awareness of that knowledge to enter into your own understanding, even here within illusion of space and time, where the image that we're utilizing to perform and accomplish salvation becomes utilizable through the application of that knowledge. And that knowledge is the knowledge of the abundance of the kingdom, the eternal nature of our reality, the inability for that eternal nature to ever be altered, the infinite capacity that we have based on the infinite strength and love of our Creator, which we share, that oneself shares with. And in reality, as creation, we extend that here in space and time. We forgive ourselves, our illusions, Father, for anything other than the reality of that oneself. And then when that oneself is achieved, when it's recognized in the moments of recognition, the light understanding that comes to us. Now, I wish I could actually try to explain the process, because it does come in a non-conceptual way that is utilizable conceptually for application, so as for each and every one of us to use in the seeming mundanity of the illusion to demonstrate the truth of that self, the reliability of that self, the trustworthy nature of that self and our Creator in the face of that which seems to be transient and anything other than trustworthy. And as we learn through the utilization, through the application of these lessons, through the application of the individualized understanding that comes into our heart and our mind from the totality of the non-conceptual communication that is conveyed to us in that knowledge, that is what allows us to walk this path comfortable within ourselves, happy with the certainty that's not of this world. And how would I say this? With the capacity to not be scathed by what the world seems to bring to us in its adversarial nature. And that's why when we find ourselves in these adversarial conditions, let's say, the miracle is always available to us, because the miracle recognizes the certainty and the equality of that which we seem to be in adversity with or adverse to us, and through the relinquishment of our ideas that what's being asked for us is adversity, the certainty that what the world is really for is for our salvation, dawns on us, so that the miracle which makes minds one has the ability to affect the particularization, the seemingly material physical world that we think we're in, because the physical and the material is nothing more than a projection of the mental, that we are utilizing to manufacture this. It's a projection. The world's a projection, and the reflections that we get are a projection of our mind. And we can use the reflections that we get to help us understand where we still need healing, if that's what we so desire. The world does not have to remain adversary. The world can be seen in an entirely different way. And these seemingly simple offerings can aid us in times of trouble. I am oneself, united with my Creator. If that's true, what would there be to fear? We're united with all creation. We're one with the universe. We're eternal in nature and infinite in our capacity to do anything, to forgive, to love, to persevere, to be true to our brother, despite the adversarial relationship that seems to be presented to us, to understand that there are outcomes to situation that aren't predicated on the laws of the ego, but are a result of the recognition of our reality and the truth that we're under no laws but God's. All these things become available to us when we utilize these offerings from Jesus as a way to both learn of who we are and heal the seeming rift that occurred in that incident of separation, where that tiny mad idea that crept into eternity occurred when we remembered not to laugh. He doesn't say we forgot to laugh. We remembered not to laugh. Because in the condition, in eternity, there's no such thing as forgetting. There's only remembering. So we remembered not. In the world of space and time, that results in a condition of forgetting. But it's worded in a very particular way, because Jesus is attempting to offer you the continuity of his whole healed, perfect mind, with the certainty that that continuity is not of this world, but is utilizable to heal what we think has occurred in this world as an effect of that remembering not to laugh. So today, and this will probably be a short commentary, I find no reason to to prolong the inevitable recognition that I am certain that we are saved, because that oneself is my salvation, and that oneself is where we already joined whole and perfect. And having had the experience that I've had brought to me, offered to me, through the recognition of Jesus' saviorship and his extension of his saviorship to me, by that recognition. There was a lesson we read the other day: when you forgive anyone wholly, it generalizes to include everyone as being whole and perfect. And that's exactly what occurred in that instant for me. I recognized that there was no way in the world I could be saved alone, because I wouldn't be able to stand it. I wouldn't be able to stand somebody else suffering and thinking I was saved. It just doesn't make any sense. It was much like when I had the experience that I had with death, when I found myself outside of my body, lying on the floor in my parents' house, knowing that when they walked in the house, them seeing me on the floor was not going to be a very happy and joyful experience. So therefore, it wasn't going to solve my problem. It was going to end my suffering. I would still be suffering, knowing that they were suffering from what it was that occurred to me. That's not an escape. That's not an way. There's no escape in that whatsoever. There's only the prolongation and the validation of what suffering is. So there must have been a better way. And better way, of course, is Course in Miracles that's been offered to me as my way, in a sense, not out of the night with merit, but to bring a conclusion to the need for dreaming whatsoever for both you and I, as we enter into this pact to seek and find reality, rather than continue to live in the world of illusion, where there is no solution, much like the desert that you just finally leave. Once you're done hanging around in it, thinking that there's something more than it's offering to you, in its recognition of dryness and barrenness. So I am oneself, united with my Creator. My salvation comes from my oneself, since we share that oneself with God and with each other. We're all already saved. And this illusion, this dream, is the veil. It's becoming thinner and thinner each and every day. Each moment that we apply these, we make leaps that we can't understand in space and time, because each moment that we apply it is a leap out of space and time. And the time and space that is covered in that leap is not measurable to us. Thank God we don't have to measure anything. We just have to recognize wholeness. There's no measurement in wholeness. There's no measurement in perfection and in eternity and infinity. There's just reality, which is why we use words such as completely, because I am oneself completely whole. I see God's perfect plan for my salvation as perfectly fulfilled. And I do, and I have, and I continue to. I continue to watch the unfoldment of a plan that I understand ends with the preclusion of the ability for the dream to ever have existed, and for you and I to have never left heaven and to never left home, and have always been the kingdom, extending endlessly and eternally. So with that, I'm going to say good day. Practice these lessons to the best of your ability, and utilize them the way they're asked to be utilized. You have no idea what advances are brought to you when you do that. And you have no idea the advances that are brought to you when you see that when you recognize that you weren't capable of doing that, but become willing again, or recognize that you didn't want to do it because you were unwilling. All of that is good knowledge, because it's all direct understanding of who you are. It's good information for you to have about yourself, so you can get to know and get familiar with yourself, rather than trying to understand the image and the imagery that we seem to be locked in and unable to negotiate our way through without sickness, pain, suffering, and death.